Welcome to Crafting the Perfect Freelance Proposal. Together we're going to be going through this guide and template, and I'll be honest with you, I think it's so funny that the name of this is the Perfect Freelance Proposal because I already started recording this video and it wasn't actually recording. So this is going to be the perfectly imperfect lesson as we move together through this guide and template. But that's all right because I didn't get too far, so we're just one page ahead. Let me get you caught up and fill you in, because here's the thing: crafting a compelling proposal is a fundamental skill for you as a freelancer or a service provider. A well-structured proposal is not only going to set you apart, but it's going to show that unlike most of the competition, you're able to demonstrate your professionalism and, more importantly, my love, your commitment to potential clients. Now, if you're unfamiliar with GoodNotes, that's what I'm working out of right now, and I highly recommend loading all of the journals and planners and templates and goodies that I designed for you into GoodNotes. It's so much fun to work in here. You can add your own stickers and markers and things. There's so many things you can do to really beautify and just play with all of these journals and planners and templates I've been creating for you. So, anywho, as you can see here, we are working on preparing for success, and I've broken this down into 3 stages for you. The first one, that's the one that you are going to be the most tempted to skip, just like everyone, but it's so important that you research the client and the project very specifically. So before you go too far into that proposal, you've got to really get thorough about your research, and you've got to take it seriously. This is going to make and break the whole kit and caboodle for you, love. So understand their industry, and if you are niched and they are within your niche industry, way better for you. It'll be so much easier for you to talk fluently about their pain points, and for you to already be able to anticipate what kinds of goals they may have. But let me stress, it is so important that you listen, because you're going to need to tailor your proposal to their specific needs and show that you've taken the time to understand their unique situation. You want to make them feel heard, make them feel seen. And an example I can give you is a small mom and pop business that was getting ready to scale to a more global level over long term, but certainly needed a regional expansion before a national, and so on and so forth. So I was brought in to consult, and the nuances of the deal were based around the business actually changing hands from one set of family members to another set of family members. And let me just tell you that if I had not paid very close attention to the little nuances that were going on within that family and within that deal and all of that good stuff, there's not a chance in hell that I could have gotten that contract. So it's really important that you pay attention, not just to what is typically going to be needed, but what they specifically think they want and need. And as you know, most of the time you're probably going to know better, but you really need to make them feel heard before they're going to trust you and actually listen to you. So the second stage is going to be defining your unique selling proposition, and this needs to be really tailored to the client, not the niche. So identify what makes you unique and why the client should choose you over the others, and highlight your expertise, experience, sure, but more importantly, I really want you to go in on your innovative approach, which will set you apart. So that's your unique methodology, right? And that goes a very long way to set you apart. And then finally, you're going to gather any other necessary information. So collect any and all information that you need to prepare yourself to make this proposal right the first time, because we don't want scope creep. We don't want to get a little bit into the project and realize that you dramatically underquoted, and now you're in this uncomfortable position where you need to go back to the client and say, I need more money, or I need more time, or both, or whatever it might be, because that is never an enjoyable experience. Although if you are struggling with scope creep, make sure you check out the Scaling with Soul blog, because I have a handful of articles all about that and how to deal with it. So moving on, though, it's really important that you take this opportunity to call out any objections that you already heard them voice, or that you believe that they might have internally or externally, and that you overcome them in this part of the proposal. So let's talk about the structure of your proposal, because it's this well-structured proposal, or this like skeleton to the whole thing, that's going to make it easier for your client to understand what working with you will be like and visualize that. And that can also lower some walls and some resistance for them as well. And it helps them to feel more comfortable, as though they can see what's coming and what's coming down the road. So you don't have to follow this structure exactly. Tailor yours to fit your needs, but this is pretty standard, and I thought it would be helpful for you to see. So typically we're going to begin with a warm greeting. You're going to introduce yourself and explain the purpose of your proposal within your introduction. Next, you're going to move on to the problem statement. So here you need to clearly articulate the client's challenges and pain points. This is where you prove you were listening, that you get it, as they say. Show that you understand their needs and that you're empathetic to their situation. Feeling as though they won't have to constantly explain themselves to you is part of why they're hiring someone to begin with, right? Like, they don't want the creative burden. They're trying to save energy, conserve energy, get more energy and time back. So the more that they have to spend to try to get you caught up on what it's like to be them and what they're going through and what they need, the harder it'll be for them to give you those, give you that credit card. So make sure that you articulate that clearly in the problem statement before moving on to your proposed solution. This is where you can highlight how well you understand their problems. Okay, so present your solution to their problems and describe how your services will address their challenges and improve their situation. This is a great exercise for your service-based sales pages. So okay. Next is that we're going to detail the steps and strategies that you're going to use to execute the project successfully. So this is where you want to take that opportunity to really highlight your unique methodology or approach. Okay, so this is where you can really start to stand out with your signature approach and your signature methodology, and you can test it more and more and more over time and refine it. Okay. And then you're going to present the timeline and milestones. Again, this goes a long way to comfort the client. All right. So provide a realistic timeline. All right. Do whatever you can to be realistic and prevent scope creep. So add 20% to timeline. Okay. So if you think it's going to be 5 days, quote 6. All right. And then finally, your pricing and payment terms. So this is very important. I used to get real shy at this part, and it cost me 6 figures. So this is not the time to be shy. This is the time to be upfront, firm, honest, and transparent. This is a really important part in terms of earning respect. Okay? It's not about being domineering, but it's about showing that you will be paid for your work. And that just because you're a freelancer or a small business owner doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be paid the same way that everyone else does. So transparently outline your pricing structure and your payment terms and ensure there are no hidden costs or surprises for the client. That's a big no-no, and it's a surefire way to get an ugly review or two. And if you want more legal tips, because I am no lawyer, I really highly recommend that you check out Amy. She is in the resources section of my website. So just go to scaling with soul. I know you've already got a tab open. And then you're going to go to the resources page, which I think actually might be under shop. Okay, let's keep it moving. The last 2 sections of your proposal are the testimonials and portfolio. That's going to give the additional proof, right, and set more expectations for the quality. And it's so important that we really invest in setting realistic expectations up front, because that's the foundation of boundaries essentially with our clients, and without those, we get into a whole huge mess of problems. So the call to action is the final step. So you're going to end your proposal with a clear call to action, such as scheduling a meeting, signing a contract, or making contact for further discussion. All right, let's talk about some writing techniques for impact. Oh, I can tell I pulled up the rough draft that I used for this design, so yours actually looks a little bit different. That's all right, though. Okay, so let's see. Beautiful. All right, let's talk about how you can have a lot more impact with the copy or the content within your proposal. Okay, so this starts with crafting an engaging introduction. You want to think about this content as something that is meant to be nurturing, okay, and a stepping stone in really developing those initial impressions in your relationship. So the more that you can grab the client's attention with your copy from the beginning, the more they're going to believe that you can do that kind of thing for them, especially if you're working in some type of design or marketing type freelancing, which vast majority of freelancers are in that space in some way, shape, or form. So crafting an engaging introduction is going to go a long way, and it's going to help you really start things off with a bang. Next, you want to go right into addressing the client's needs. No fluff. So always make sure that your language throughout the writing is focused on the client's needs and not just your qualifications. Typical mistake that I see mirrored here in websites is the about pages are often written all about the person, that owns the website versus the client. It's your about page is meant to be a sales page essentially. So heads up if you've made that very common mistake. But make sure that you're showing them how you can solve their specific problems. So remember in math class when they were always telling you to show your work? Yeah, it was getting you prepared for this moment when you're going to address the client's needs. Next, we want to demonstrate your expertise. Not it's one thing to talk about it, it's a whole other thing to demonstrate it. So use clear and concise language to showcase that expertise and avoid jargon or technical terms that the client might not understand. Finally, you're going to highlight the benefits over the features. Emphasize the benefits that the client's going to receive from your services rather than just listing features. This is a super, super common mistake. I see it left, right, and sideways, that you just simply put together a bullet point list of features, but the client has no idea what those features really mean. How do they translate? So how will their life and business improve? It's so important that you communicate it in those terms. Okay, and then finally, we've got creating a compelling closing statement. So end your proposal with a strong closing statement that summarizes the key points, reiterates the value that you bring, and encourages the client to take action. Now let's talk about how you can overcome some very common and specific proposal challenges. Up first is handling competitive bidding. This is really intimidating for those of us that are shy and don't like to get into competitive situations. But rest assured that you can differentiate yourself by highlighting your unique strengths and offering competitive pricing while maintaining quality. So this does not mean lowballing. You want to be, if this is, okay, let's say if this is the low end and this is the high end, right? This is the middle. You want to be right there, right about there somewhere, okay? And that will be a competitive price while still communicates value. So okay. Next, you need to address the client's concerns. So anticipate and address potential concerns or objections that they're going to have, reassuring them of your capability to deliver. So anytime that you can actually address those concerns before they even have the chance to say them out loud, you're going to win major points. So again, this is where having a very specific niche comes in handy, because you're going to see the same exact situations over and over again, to the point where you're basically going to be able to say to the client what they're thinking, and they're going to be like, whoa, that's crazy that you get it like that. So that's what happens when you really niche down and focus. Here again, I told you we need to really, really, really be careful that we avoid scope creep. Clearly defining the scope of work in your proposal to avoid misunderstandings later. You know, it's so common, and it's not something to be ashamed about, but it is something that can totally derail you in so many ways. So any additional work that's going to be separate, you got to talk to them about it. You got to be upfront. You always want to build in a buffer and have I also suggest using milestones and repeatable templated like processes. So You don't want to reinvent the wheel for every single client on what kind of service you're providing. You want to have the same process over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, so that again, it's getting refined, it's predictable, and you do know how long it's going to take you to do something. Okay. So, all right, so build in that buffer. All right, and then finally, we also want to manage rejections and revisions. Ugh, two words that this freelance writer really hated. Rejections are part of the proposal process, so they happen and it's okay. You can use that feedback from rejected proposals to improve future ones, and just, remind yourself that that wasn't meant for you, and what's meant for you will find you. And be open to revisions if the client requests changes. Remember, it's not personal. Just business, it's just content, or whatever it is that you're doing. I have the tendency to still think in that frame of mind because I did that for so long. Okay, let's talk about designing a professional proposal. I think it's important that we start with the right document format, right? So you're going to want a PDF. That's going to be preferred. So any other format's probably going to be seen as less than professional. You're going to want to use professional visuals and graphics. Charts and graphs can go a long way in terms of communicating certain value points. And images, depending on, of course, what it is that you're doing. You're definitely going to want to make sure that your proposal is branded. This is a must to communicate a certain professional standard and value. And then, of course, you're going to want to proofread and edit. I don't think I really have to tell you that. So here we have your perfect proposal checklist. Once you have gone through and done everything that we've been talking about, you're going to want to review each and every one of these in order to make sure that it truly is the perfect proposal. So you're going to say, oh yeah, I totally researched the client. I definitely delivered a badass and very clear problem statement before detailing the solution and the approach. I was very, very careful to include a realistic timeline and milestones. I know that'll go a long way to prevent scope creep. We went through transparent pricing and payment terms together. And by the way, see how I'm doing this with you? I suggest you do this with the client. After you've gone through everything, I think you should do this so that they can really kind of get a review of everything you guys have gone over together. And this might trigger any questions that they forgot or something like that along the way. Okay. You'll say, yes, we have gone through the trustworthy testimonials and portfolio. We've discussed what you need to do next. You included your engaging introduction, your client-centric language, your benefit-oriented content. There's a beautiful professional design and nice clean formatting. And finally, you've made sure that it is proofread and error-free. So, as promised, I brought along a proposal template for you to steal and to tweak as needed. So, all of your standard info all through here. Client's name. Hope this message finds you well. This is all your information is going to go in here. This is where, here's your problem statement, right? Here's your proposed solution, your methodology. See, it's all outlined for you, just like we discussed. So important they have next steps. Otherwise, you can have one of these just sit in somebody's inbox for forever. Yeah, so, okay. And Ultimately, I think it's important that I always remind you a template is a launch pad. Okay, so you don't have to keep it exactly like this. Feel free to tweak it and understand that you can use it for cold outreach as well as warm, but I always recommend that, especially if you're going to do cold outreach, what's going to be that most important part? I think you know. I think you know. Yes, yes, yes. You must research the client and potential project that you are proposing, which, if you have standardized services that you're going to be proposing, then that's pretty easy. And again, if you're going to be scaling, I recommend that everything is standardized that way. You don't want to reinvent the wheel every single time. It causes so many headaches. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy your copy of Crafting the Perfect Proposal, a freelancer's guide and template. And I can't wait to hear all of your success stories of nailing those sales and getting those easy yeses back from your clients now that you've got this proposal template. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure that you tune in to my free Design with Me co-working sessions every day at 4 on my YouTube channel, Widely Creative Women TV. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, Sarah at scalingwithsoul.com, where you can pick up more planners, templates, journals, and Google Sheets to help you scale your business without the burnout. I'll see you soon.